Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning into UPSC Radio podcast. Today's episode is a special one. We have today Mr. Astosh Kumar, co-founder and CEO of testbook.com. To give you a context to this episode, the central government recently upgraded educational reforms as par with western countries and introduced digitalization in primary schools. So in this episode, we are going to depth analysis to understand these reforms, new educational policy 2020, and how digital education such as testbook.com can bring affordable education to the society. Let's welcome Mr. Astosh after this break. ఇండియా గురించి తెలుసుకుందాం అనుకుంటున్నారా? అయితే 32 ఎపిసోడ్స్తో యూపీఎస్సీ రేడియో సీజన్ 3 ఇండియా ఏ బుక్ సిరీస్కి స్వాగతం. తెలుగు స్టేట్స్లో ద వన్ అండ్ ఓన్లీ ఎడ్యుకేషనల్ పాడ్కాస్ట్ షో మన యూపీఎస్సీ రేడియో పాడ్కాస్ట్. 21A ఆఫ్ ఇండియన్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ ఈజ్ అవర్ మోటో, గివింగ్ ఫ్రీ అండ్ అఫోర్డబుల్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్. ఈ పాడ్కాస్ట్ని మీరు జియో సావన్, గానా, గూగుల్ పాడ్కాస్ట్, యాపిల్ పాడ్కాస్ట్, స్పాటిఫై మ్యూజిక్స్లో కూడా వినొచ్చు. ఈ పాడ్కాస్ట్ యూపీఎస్సీ, ఏబిపిఎస్సి, టీఎస్పీఎస్సి చదివే వాళ్ళకి అండ్ కామన్ మ్యాన్కి ఇండియా గురించి మీడియాలో చూపించని వాటిని లేదా పేపర్స్లో ఇవ్వని వాటిని తెలుసుకోవాలనుకుంటే ఈ పాడ్కాస్ట్ మీకోసం. ఆల్ అబౌట్ ఇండియా యూ విల్ నో ఇన్ దిస్ 32 ఎపిసోడ్ సిరీస్ ఆఫ్ పాడ్కాస్ట్. అండ్ ఐఎమ్ యువర్ హోస్ట్ దినేష్ దిండకూర్తి. ఐఎమ్ ఎ వ్లాగర్, బ్లాగర్, RTA activist and civil services faculty. So let's go into the episode. Hi Astosh Kumar, welcome to UPSC Radio podcast.
Hi Dinesh, thanks for hosting me here.
So I just want to ask a few questions regarding what is your inspiration behind establishing this testbook.com and what is your vision and what exactly you're going to serve in this testbook.com.
Sure. So Dinesh, actually, when I was in IIT 2007, I went to IIT Bombay, and since then itself, I started teaching physics to K-12 kids. And almost I taught for 7 years. When I was graduating in 2012, I had a lot of teaching opportunities across different coaching institutes. But again, I didn't choose those opportunities, and the prime reason was the scale of impact. Because if you go and teach in an institute, like say max to max, you can sort of change the life of 1,000 people, 5,000 people, 10,000 people. It's very difficult to go beyond that. And since then, we had a vision to sort of create something where we can actually create the impact at a national level, at a very mass level. And education, we know that this is a fundamental of a growing nation, because the people are good, people are literate, people are educated, a lot of things changes. And that's how back in 2012 itself, we sort of decided now to take up a job and sort of spend good amount of time in education sector and sort of contribute our effort in terms of sort of mixing technology and education together and create a very differential product. And now we are seeing the value of those services or digital platform, the COVID era where things are not moving, things are locked down, but still people are sort of able to continue their learning without any disruption.
So particularly in the period of crisis where all the institutions has been locked down and particularly people have been reverse migrated to their own villages and type 2 and type 3 cities. So this is a crucial period where they should not miss their mandatory educational competitive exams. And how you gonna fulfill the gap between this crisis period?
So we are fulfilling the gap in this crisis period, and just not we. I guess all the digital learning platforms are doing that, because again, since institutions are locked down, people are not able to travel, people are not able to move, not able to sort of attend the classes. But again, the learning cannot stop. So if I give you an
Yes.
example, some sense in the government competitive exam, the competition is very high. The selection chance is even less than 0.25%. And just you imagine 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, you are just sitting idle, and rest of the world is sort of preparing hard, and they can sort of get go ahead than you. So I guess in this lockdown, people and the students have sort of used this time as a bonus time to work on their weak areas. And we as a platform are providing a full one-stop learning services on the platform, where starting from a topics to a full exam level courses are available on the platform. People can practice questions, people can practice mock tests. So I guess there are tons of content available on the platform. And on top of it, I guess the kind of value being a technical platform we have been able to add to our users is the recommendation, which was never possible in the traditional mode of learning. So just I'll give you a sense. So if you take a mock test on our platform, we sort of analyze the performance based on 24 data points. and even we tell you that these are your weak topics, these are your strong topics. This is how you sort of stand among toppers or among the average students. So after every assessment, you have been able to figure out your next steps, what you have to do now. And these things were never possible in the traditional learning. So I guess this pandemic has given an opportunity and a chance for people to at least try, but the people are liking it. And we are hoping that going ahead, there is going to be a big mass of Janta continue with this new normal of learning.
Yeah, that's great to know. And how many students or how many successful candidates are serving the country with your guidance or textbook.com guidance? It can be SSC or it can be banking. They are serving the country. How many students have successfully done it?
So far, we have more than 1 crore 20 lakh students on the platform who have come registered on the platform and somehow consumed some or other content on the platform. In last 3 years, we have been successfully able to place more than 37,000 students across different government jobs, and this is a massive number. I'll give you one more stat around our outcome. So if you see, as I said, the selection chance is even less than 1% of the government job. And our platform, we have been able to provide 7% selection chance or selection ratio in our from our ecosystem. So again, this is a very big achievement because like say, out of 100 people coming to our platform, we have been able to sort of place 7 people out of them. Though if they go to a normal coaching institute or in a normal market, they have not been able to place more than 1% of the people.
Okay, that's great to know. The success rate is what matters in the competitive exam. Of course, knowledge is important, but altogether, at last, whether getting the service or going away from the service is important, and you are doing a great job in that.
Yeah, because again, in competitive exam, knowledge is just one part of it because we have just 2,000 vacancies. 20 lakh students are sort of appearing and chasing those to get into a final selection list. And again, I guess out of 20 lakh people, easily 3 to 4 lakh people are very good in their knowledge. What matters is that how you convert that knowledge into marks on the exam day. And then a lot of effort is required from a 360-degree perspective to make yourself ready and deliver on the exam day. And that's how we have built our whole learning ecosystem. So if you say textbook, we don't just provide assessment or we don't just provide learning. It's a full 360-degree learning experience where we sort of provide you lesson by lesson learning modules, live tutoring where you can interact with the teachers, and then all those live lectures are assisted with a set of questions based on the topics taught in that particular lecture, so that you should be able to sort of apply those concepts in a practical way, and then that can get into your permanent memory, which actually you can recall on your final exam day. And all these things together contribute to a good outcome driven learning process, or you can say the selection at the end.
Yes, that's great insight. And just before the interview that we are starting now, Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi has come to the press meet and he said few points regarding the education system and how the 30, 40-year-old traditional education system has been there, the pitfalls in the basic education system, why we are not going into an online-based
Hmm.
platform. So this is the time that, of course, it is not just because of this corona crisis, but we have to upgrade ourselves to this online education, not just like a competitive field, but even the traditional education has to be upgraded to online. So what is the scope of this online education in the academic course and also in this competitive field for the people who couldn't afford a normal like institutional education?
So if you see the national education policy, one thing they have done very nicely is that so they have sort of building a system where they'll phase out the college affiliation based model, and they let the institution sort of hand out the degrees themselves to the students. And this is something which is going to open a huge, a big opportunity to sort of bring formal learning into a online or digital mode. So, like say, the people would be able to sort of do their normal graduation in maybe in arts or commerce or science or through online platform. So, I guess it's in the favor of sort of shifting to a new approach or a digital approach. Because earlier, so if you see today, so if you even if you want to sort of do those courses, you cannot do that because there is a full affiliation process that needs to be taken from the authority and the government body. So these are the good signals. And again, from a student perspective, if you see, they have brought a model of multiple entry and exit. So and I guess a lot of foreign countries already work on that model. So that means that you can take an exit whenever you want between your courses, do whatever you want. Maybe you can do some internship, gain some practical experiences to have more holistic learning, and then again you can come back and sort of finish your remaining courses. So that means it will actually increase the youth to follow the passion without fear. So those things were the big drawbacks into our education system, because it's very important that your passion, your interest, and your profession should match at the end. Then only you'll be able to sort of give the better output or better productivity out of yourself. And in terms of affordability that you said, so I guess the digital solutions are working and sort of impacting that affordability, sort of addressing that affordability problem. If I give you one example, so we provide more than 6,000 mock tests, almost 200 courses, like say you can assume around 25,000 hours of video content at a price of 300, 400 rupees a year. So that means like say 1.5 rupees a day. So actually, and it is like say even cheaper than going and having a cup of coffee in CCD. So I guess technology is going to play a very big role in bringing down the cost of the learning, and that's not the learning, the quality education.
I would like to add a small point here. Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi today said that just if you take two states like Andhra and Telangana in South India, they're spending
Yeah.
50,000 crores on the basic education till they reach like 10th class and all for every year. And it is serving only 65 lakh students. It means that an average 77,000 is spent on a single student. But at the end, he's not, I mean, the society is not getting any good output from that, and not even the student is getting a good output from that. Basing this, like taking this fact as a whole, he's saying, why can't we spend good amount of money? It can be through online platforms or state-centric platforms or digitalization of education. So instead of spending 77,000, as you said, it is just 300 rupees per course. You're saying so we can bring great revolutions. I'm thinking. What do you say about that?
Yeah, yeah, just not the per course. Yeah, just for the full platform-based access, where you can have more than 200 courses, 6,000 practice tests. So what you said is absolutely true. It's all about the fund is limited, and you have to figure out how you can have a more output or efficient way of spending that money to drive the outcome. So I guess going ahead, the national education policy has drafted out a lot of changes that is going to come. But I guess a lot of effort needs to be still come into the picture around the execution side, how they're going to do that. So now government also talked about that by 2035 they are planning to take the GER ratio from current 26.3% to almost 50%.
Yes.
And that would be possible when actually government put a lot of effort around the technology side. So 2018, they also came up with a policy where they said that the degree courses would be now allowed and would be approved by UGC, right?
Yes.
So that was never possible earlier. So I guess going ahead, the government will plan how to sort of do a change in the strategy of spending money and figuring out. But again, in India, the country like India, where we have a very vast nation, a lot of people are there, very diversified culture, government will have to sort of leverage the advantage of technology to deliver the quality content or learning across the corner of India. Otherwise, it won't be possible. How you can produce like say millions of good quality teachers who can go to each and every corner of country and then sort of teach and educate students? Not possible. So that's where the technology is coming into the picture.
I have read this new education policy 2020 document. I have some facts to make, and I need your opinion on this. There are some samples which are collected by various states by the new education policy committee. It says more than 40% of less than class 5 students fail to do basic mathematics like addition, subtraction, and division. And a 8th class student couldn't even read a textbook of 5th class standard. So, where are we going? Do you think this is the correct time to change the educational policy of India? Or is this the correct time to upgrade our reforms?
So, as you said, why people are not able to answer the trivial question that you said, the basic maths and all, even though they have gone through a primary education, that's because of might be the system were not right or not correct. Maybe the educator, the instructor, the teachers were not right. And that's what I said. The digital education has the power to deliver that. I don't need like say thousands of teachers to sort of teach millions of students. I can have like say a pool of 10, 20 good teachers, good quality teachers, and using that and using the technology part, I sort of can get that content access to millions of students across country. So if you have a good educator, good instructor, good mentor, definitely it is going to have a big impact or right impact at the student level. So this is one, and again, as PM Narendra Modi was talking about the collaborative approach, this is going to be the only way to solve this big issue, because a lot of innovations needs to come from both technology as well as content side, and won't be possible for the government to do this on their own, because just see in India there are hundreds of tech-based educational startups are running, and everyone is trying their pieces to figure out the right technology to solve the current challenges in the learning model. Just imagine 4 years, 3 years back, there was no live streaming of video lectures, right? It was just simply you go to YouTube and then you just see a video. If you have doubts, you won't be able to ask or you won't be able to interact with the teacher. Now, in just 2 years, things have changed a lot, right? During the live classes, you have been able to talk to the teachers, chat with the teachers, ask your queries. Then they have a lot of platforms who have integrated the doubt solving or the real time doubt solving with their platforms like Testbook. So I guess it needs a collaborative approach to solve this problem. And education is not a small problem. Just imagine if all people in India becomes literate, educated, the color would be different of the country, very different.
Yes, of course. There is one state like in Delhi government has started this model schools where it is competing. Like the government schools are even competing with international schools, same as in Kerala, produce greatest amount of literacy rate. But whereas in Bihar, if you say not just Bihar, some states in the remotest part are northeast states. Is it just because they are not accessing the power of accessibility to online education is lacking them behind in their education system, or is it just the traditional education system which is not being delivered to them? What is the issue by being
So
like huge differences in huge different states?
So Dinesh is just like if you are running a company, I'm running a company, and both of us get like say 2 million funds to build the business. Both of will have a different approach and the different outcome, right? So I guess it's just
Yeah.
not about online and offline. Okay, it's all about the fundamentals and the right execution of the full policy or the full outcome driven thing. Because even in the government school, the same building is same. The teachers are the humans, right? They are not imported from Mars or like somewhere else. But if you have the focus and the deliverables very decided for all the institutions to sort of go and do that, it will happen. So a lot on the execution side. I guess if they have a core fundamental or like say if it's in their priority list at the government level, their education has to be very well. A good quality education needs to be delivered to students starting from their primary to a secondary. So accordingly, you build the full entire system. And again, as I said, technology is just one of the means to deliver the learning or deliver the content, right? Earlier, the teacher, it was happening one-on-one physical, and now it is happening through digital mode. The teacher doesn't changes. The teaching concept doesn't changes. The teaching pedagogy doesn't changes, right? So I guess it needs the holistic approach and focus towards the right and the good education, and then things will change. So same money we can have it, but we can spend in a very different way, and both the approach will have a different outcome. And the Delhi government sort of realized that part that education is the key fundamental piece which is going to contribute in the state's growth going ahead, and accordingly they have given the focus at a primary level. So even in the government school, if you have a good teacher, students are coming, they would be good, they would learn good, they will do good.
Yes. And what is about this 10 plus 2 structure that has been changed recently to 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4? So the by the like till fifth class, it has to be in the regional mediums that the education has to be delivered in the regional mediums.
Hmm.
Do you think by the time they achieve or they wanna prepare for these government exams like SSC or banking or UPSC, will that play a dragging role? Like because they have read in Telugu medium, will that degrade their counterpart who are preparing in educational institutions and private institutions?
I guess the fundamentals are different here. So, sort of making mandatory this regional languages till fourth or fifth standard was to sort of make them understand and know their mother language, right? But even if you see the railway exams happens in 13 languages, banking exam is going to happen in the multilingual. And I guess after fifth, where actually your very scientific or focus-based learning starts, they will have enough time to sort of get into or the learn the other languages. So I don't think that would be a problem. I guess this is an add-on that you would have very cultural rich students starting from their school time.
There is a new trend of preparing IIT, JEE, and also SSC exams, UPSC exams from the class 7, 8, 9 standard onwards in some of the South Indian states. So, do you think this making a school education competitive from the very early age? Do you think is that a good idea?
I guess very few people start preparation from ninth standard for SSC banking. Mostly when you get into a degree college, so mostly generally people start from their first year, second year of their graduation. But if you see the syllabus of these all government exams or SSC or banking or railway or even the state exams, it primarily includes the aptitude-based questions, right? Like the basic maths, the reasoning, the English, which actually comes from the ninth or tenth standard syllabus. So I guess if you have your fundamentals very strong in the ninth and tenth standard, it's going to be very easy to crack the government exam when like say you are a graduate. But I guess people preparing for a very competitive exams where the depth of the knowledge is required, like IIT or medical, people are sort of starting little early, like starting from seventh or eighth standard. But I guess for the government job, that might not required. It's all about, because again, the syllabus is not that tough. It's all about the practice, speed, and accuracy. Because you just get 36 seconds to solve a question. That means you have to read the question, you have to understand the question, solve the question, then mark the question.
And one more thing, you're giving online education where it can be easily
Yeah.
accessible with a small mobile phone or a laptop, simple tab or laptop. But what about the people who are residing in complete villages or remotest part of the like where
Correct.
they don't even have good internet speeds or something like that? Are they getting injustice because of this online education platform? Or first, we is it the government job to provide complete and free platforms in terms of internet or complete? There are so many case studies recently in Andhra, Telangana, and Tamil Nadu, where some people have been lagging behind because they're not getting good amount of technology advancements, like a simple mobile phone or a laptop. How we have to deal with this?
So, Dinesh, here the two fundamental problems are there. One is the infrastructure, which needs to be built up across country to leverage the advantage of digital-based solutions, based e-commerce, based logistics, based education. And I guess we have done a good job in last few years, where now, like say, even the smaller towns, internet is available. The smartphone are available at a cheaper price. But as you said, still the internet is not that smooth. It's a patchy network, and you cannot sort of watch a video without buffering. When it comes to learning, you need a very seamless performance or seamless streaming of the videos, right? So I guess, and then another solutions which needs to be solved or driven by the from the technology perspective. I'll give you one example. We have built a feature to sort of watch video lectures offline, like a Netflix. So you go to Netflix app, you can just download whatever series or videos that you want, and you can watch whenever you want and any number of times that you want. And when we brought this feature, it is one of the most loving feature among the students coming from a smaller town. And the core reason is that the internet is not that smooth in those areas. Like even the test on our platform just required when you start and when you end the test. Like if you're attempting a 2 hours test, you just need internet while starting and finishing the test, and between the 2 hours, you don't require at all. So I guess a lot of those challenges would be solved by technology, and I guess I think startups are doing that, doing a great job in that, doing a lot of innovation. And again, from the government perspective, as you said, we need to have a even more stronger infrastructure where, like say, very stable internet should be accessible to the students around the devices, because again, without devices you cannot access any digital solution, just not the education. So in last few years, the cost of the digital devices has gone down, and I guess going ahead with the technology advances will go further, and that is going to sort of all these things going to club together and bring and add value in the solutions which exist right now.
Yes, that's great to know about the technology advancement what Textbook is doing. And if you see in terms of the budget
Yeah.
expenditure that everyone is interested about at the end of February and March, almost like in terms of education sector,
Hmm.
even like the African countries, Somalia and Niger, Cuba, Namibia, even these countries are spending around 15% of the GDP on education. And developed countries like US and UK are spending around
Hmm.
8 to 9%. But in case of India, we're hardly spending 4.43 to 3%. Some cases, and this year it is 4.43. And do you think increasing the budget expenditure will solve the problem? Or is it the accessibility? Or is it increasing the skills of teachers? Or changing just the education system? Where exactly the problem
So
resides
there's
here?
two things required: the good fund and the right way to use the fund. Okay, so even if we sort of make that 6% to 15%, but if you don't use that fund judiciously, there's not going to bring any difference. So even if, like, the government has shifted from 4.3% to 6%, that's a good signal. But again, they need to figure out the right execution using that fund, right? Then only you'll be able to sort of bring a difference. As you only talked about, right, the model in Bihar versus Delhi. So I don't think there will be much difference in terms of the fund, but there is a big difference in terms of execution, and that's where government needs to put more focus, and then things will change for sure.
Yes. And there is one more thing that even Kasturi Rangan committee, not just that, but even our 1985 reforms, everyone is saying about ethics in education has to be imbibed, not just basic math or science or physics. Even ethics has to be imbibed. If you take in terms of competitive exams, civils have that ethics. I mean, in civil like services examinations or like in state PSC examinations. But in terms of remaining exams like banking, SSC, or like railways and all, RRBs and all, do you think bringing ethics into this competitive field will solve the problem? Like, it is not just merit and marks. I think it is just even morals and ethics is also important for an educator who is going to do service in this
It does.
field.
It does, and those guys are tested on those parameters during the interviews. And I guess that's why they sort of conduct the interviews, right? Even if you sort of want to take a job, banking job as a probationary officer, you have to go through interview process, right? And that's where those parameters are being judged and figured out, and then based on those collectively your marks versus your interaction or your performance in the interview, people are sort of getting into a final list. And this is good, and it is required as well. Just your very subject knowledge won't be enough to sort of become a good leader going ahead.
Okay, what is that? What is like the textbook.com gives to the society and your advice to the government? Maybe like because today morning Narendra Modi clearly said that the whole India has to debate on this particular educational reforms. Every institution, every person, every society has to debate and discuss about the new educational reforms and all. So, what is your take on the final reforms that we have in this 2020?
So there is a positive feeling or positive sort of mindset with this reform, and we already talked about it. It is now more holistic, more disciplinary, and now it has open. People have a freedom to sort of choose and learn whatever they want, and not with the fear of sort of missing out. At a university level, government has sort of combined and proposed for a common entrance exam. Imagine people running from one state to another state with the fear of missing of filling the application form, and there are multiple universities in India, right? So like, those are very good signal going ahead. So as I said, we need an efficient system. So just doing 10 things or 100 things are not going to solve problem. Just do two things, but figure out what are the two right things and how you can do that thing in a very efficient and effective way. So I guess this policy carries that part. And as you said, how we are sort of creating an impact. Imagine 37,000 people got selected, and they were unemployed and they were youth, and most of their family were not financially well off. And 37,000 family sort of now have a very good and consistent source of financial or like say monthly income has a big difference. And when sort of when like say once people get a job in a family in a small village, that motivates the whole community of that particular village. That just doing farming or just doing a small work in the country is not just the whole life or just not the whole dream. And then someone sort of get this success in their community, that becomes an aspiration. So I guess at a national level, we have been putting our effort or contributing our effort to bring a difference. And again, everything starts from education. If you sort of give a good education, people will be educated, they'll take a right decision, and they'll land up at a good place.
Can you give a brief about textbook.com?
Yeah, sure. So Textbook as a platform provides full one-stop learning solutions for almost all central as well as the state government exams. Though majority of the exams on the platform are the central government exams. We do somewhere around 150 exams on the platform. Central government exams happening in India, you would find on Textbook. The full learning program, the learning course here. And then, as I said, we have like say starting. It's a one-stop platform, so students can come, they can learn the basic concepts, they can prepare for a full exam syllabus, or if they are sort of they already have the knowledge and they want to practice questions, practice mock tests, they can do that. If they want to benchmark themselves at a competition, at a national level competition, that they can do that. And on a monthly basis, we would be having more than 50 lakh active students coming on the platform and doing some or other part of the learning. Yeah, I'll give you a few more metrics. So on a monthly basis, we have around 4.5 million test attempts on the platform, and there would be somewhere around 250 million minutes of study hours on the platform. So I'm just giving you a collective holistic number of the platform, and that gives a sense of the impact that we have been as a team or as a company able to do that or contribute in the country.
That will definitely help the society. Yes, I think you're fulfilling the need like Article 21A of our constitution, which gives like
Hmm.
affordable education. As per the rates you said, it's like very minimal, and even like at the type 2 and type 3 person can easily access those your files and
Correct,
your videos and all.
correct,
You're doing
correct.
a great job on this textbook.com.
Thank you.
On this note, we'll conclude the episode. Thank you, Astosh Kumar, for joining UPSC Radio
Thank you,
Podcast.
Dinesh, and it was very great interaction.
Hope our listeners get great insight from this episode. Anyone listening this episode for the first time, please listen to our previous episode of season 1, 2 and 3. Thank you for tuning into UPSC Radio Podcast. Have a great day. Dinesh Dindakurti signing off.